we'll start episode 1 of Into the Kitchen. For those of you that are here with us, you will be listening to this first one because if you read the intro that was posted on Instagram, I am not super savvy with the tech, and so Andrew Frinkle is here with us, and he is nice enough to be the first guinea pig in this experience of having a stage community develop. My name is Adam Kraft. I'm here with BattleSauce, and we're going to get going in just a few minutes with Andrew. Just real quick, be sure to check out any links in our Discord or our Instagram to get back here. Everything that we're going to talk about tonight with Andrew will be linked. He has a lot of resources and just a ton of creativity. So, Andrew Frinkle, I would like to say hi, welcome to it. And I've got a whole list of accolades here for you, sir. The things you have been doing. So if you don't mind, I would just run down a few of these here. You've been writing.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh yeah, very much welcome, man. Very much welcome.
Yeah. It's nice seeing you again after Ice and Dice. So
no kidding. So for those of you that may not know, I was at Ice and Dice, which is a convention right outside of Florence. Ton of fun. Met Andrew there. A lot of great people, and yeah, just a ton of stuff. So you have been writing fantasy and sci-fi novels since '03. Comic books and role-playing games since 2018 and 19, respectively. Various Kickstarters and independent works, such as, if I could, the book, or the Song of Nehmet. That was a Kickstarter for 5e, right?
Yeah.
Shadows over Cairn Braga, also a Kickstarter and 5e, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're kind of getting... Yeah, Karen Bria, that's another kind of, we're leaning into the gothic kind of horror, dark fantasy kind of motif these days. And even one of my next ones coming out is still dark fantasy, but we're going for more of an urban, modern fantasy.
Which I love, by the way. I don't know, you and I got to chat a little bit, but I am the horror guy. I love tentacles, and I love dripping ichor and everything else that goes along with it. Were you talking about, by the way, since I had done a bit more digging, you were doing upcoming events, right? So the Demon Age, was that another one that was going to be horror inspired for 5e as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a modern day one. So it delves into like religion and the apocalypse, but it's modern day. You get to play a creature with angelic abilities that eventually you get to make a choice whether you're, going for the dark side or the light side. It should be a blast. I've got about 13 people writing different chapters for me. So
wow, really?
It's going to be a lot of fun.
So, yeah, and so there is a lot more here, and I do want to come back to that real quick, but you've got so much out, so many works. You do things with comic books. You've been working with Derek Stevens as an artist. I work with Lost Lorn Industries and Games, and he's one of our artists as well. And you guys have just been cranking out the material. At the Ice and Dice, as a matter of fact, you had a major display of work.
Yeah, I'm nothing if not prolific. So like I started a lot with novels, and I really wanted to be a novelist, sci-fi, fantasy, etc. And it's really difficult to crack into that market. Self-published for several years and just wasn't making it. And a friend got me into Teachers Pay Teachers and the educational stuff, and it just went from there. I worked at home for a couple of years with an educational startup, and it was good. I mean, it just inspired me to start making a lot of books, and I cranked out about 150 different educational titles.
Oh my gosh!
Science education, like games, just a bunch of stuff. And while that's interesting and fulfilling, it doesn't scratch that sci-fi fantasy itch that I wanted to get back to.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I actually blame turning 40 on the whole situation because for my 40th birthday, my wife asked me what I wanted, and I said, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, I played a lot in high school and stuff, but it was 2E, so like 5E was kind of a new thing. So I got 5, 6 guys from, it was supposed to be 7. So I wrote a specific mission for 7 different anti-heroes to work together, which is Song of the Nehmet. And it was supposed to be just like a one-shot, and it ended up being like over 100 pages. So that was fun, and it kind of got me back into it. So I tried to release a couple things, and yeah, it's hard doing it from cover to cover on your own. So it just stumbling into Derek and a couple of the other guys like Kelly Williams of Maximum Roll. Again, Derek Stevens has his own label in Zayden Studios, and it just really took off from there. So I got to redo Song of the Nehmet with actual art and everything. It was really fun. And that was one of my first Kickstarters, my first 5e one. But I did a couple card games and such too. So figuring out how to do all the card game printing and getting the sizes right and going through the art and the style, it's fun. And that's really been a building thing for me. So going through a couple Kickstarters first, and then still doing most of it on my own, but now kind of teaming up with a lot of industry writers to do Karen Brieg, and then my latest one, which was Mention in the Multiverse.
I saw that. So yeah. That looked really cool. And also, it shouldn't be overlooked that you are the, let me get it right here. You're the sole proprietor, owner, and runner of MediaStream Press. What don't you do with your outlets? You do apparently everything.
Yeah, I did some children's stories, books, and stuff. I illustrated. I did, sort of embarrassingly, a children's music album too. I played on a
really?
band. Yeah.
That's excellent, sir.
Somebody really loves. I did this Crayon Boxes album about different colors, and I tried to make children's music that still sounded like adult, fun, contemporary pop kind of emo music.
Yeah.
And a little bit of electro synth stuff in there. So it was fun, and somebody loves the heck out of my Gray song. So I did one for each of the colors. It's had like 40,000 listens. There's got to be somebody whose child is raised on that song.
I mean, like just loving it. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So, like with all that being said, how do you manage? And this actually goes right into what I was wanting to ask you. Anyway, you're a family man. You're an educator. Are you still an active educator?
Yeah, I do I wouldn't say 9 to 5. It's 7 to 3. I do the 7 to 3, 5 days a week. Cats running around back there.
How does one find time to do all of this? Like where do you fit that in?
Don't sleep much.
Okay, I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me. I don't sleep a lot either.
It's a lot of coffee, and I'm honestly probably like a 7.5, 8 hour sleeper, but I get by on 6s a lot or 5s, and it leaves you run down a bit. So I try to catch up on the weekends some, and then I used to take the weekends off from work too, but it's so hard with all the projects right now because I'll sneak away between dinner and lunch, or lunch and dinner rather, and I'll work 3 hours and then I'll go do something, or I'll have breakfast and then work a couple hours. It's difficult. I don't always balance it as well as I should, but then, you try to get up and move around, hit the treadmill, throw some weights around 30, 40 minutes, 5 times a week.
Oh my gosh. Again,
probably not as much as I should. I just, there's times when I want to do that next section. It's very much like a good book where you keep hitting that cliffhanger. You're like, oh, it's just one more little tiny piece. Just
another little bit. Yeah, just another little bit.
And then you're like, I feel like I'm chained to this chair. I need to get out of the chair. So then you're like, I'm going to go watch something with the kids, or like go, shoot some hoops for half an hour. Anything
to get the heart rate up a little bit. Well,
yeah, I'm kind of an anxious person anyway, so my foot will be going, and I'll be like, but listen to music, and just one more section. This is good. And, you should see me on National Novel Writing Month when I did that a couple times. That's a sprint, man. 50,000 words in a month.
You strike me as the kind of guy that's just vibrating around the place all the time, getting anything that's able to be done. So you were talking about just a few minutes ago that you had 13 different individuals that you work with for things like art? And is it just art and editing and writing, or what is the range there for you?
Well, so when we do a project, I usually do layouts and do like a concept and a lot of the setting stuff, and then I'll do like a sample mission, or I call them missions, but it's honestly more of like a chapter in the storyline. And then I'll put it out there. I'll say, guys, I got 13 more of them. Sign up for what you want. Knock out one of them. Come back to another one. Like Mansion in the Multiverse. That one had adventures across 20 different realms of reality. So you're going to like the realm of fire, the realm of ice, the realm of mist. So I wrote like 4 or 5 of them, and then I had everybody else writing 1 or 2 or 3 of them, whatever they could take time for, and they got to do that. And then I had a couple people do arts and stat blocks. I can do it all, but it's different. Like I really enjoy the new ideas that other people pull in, because they take it a different route than I would. And there's a couple people, one of my coworkers, Eric especially, he's kind of like my sounding board, but he also throws stuff in my face a lot. Like, now this is going to suck. This is too repetitive. You got it. No, this isn't going to work. Players these days expect this. Because I'm a 2E guy from way back when. And yeah, it's just a different breed now, I guess. I want magical items and fun activities and like fun feats and stuff. And it's like, you used to, well, I'm just going to attack them and burn my spell slots. But so we try to make things interesting and different. And a lot of my games end up being not low magic, but I like to use magic more as a like a special thing, like the special sauce. I don't want that to be the whole meal,
Exactly.
But yeah, I'll throw some cool items out there, and more about the setting and the story than that. But it just depends on that group too.
Well, I was going to ask you. So, like, do you have, when you come back to that then, when you have a team that's doing, let's say, a couple chapters or a couple events, and they do the writing, and they, I don't know how much you might allocate to them, or is it wide open and they do what it takes to get it done, and then that feeds back to you? So are you like the arbiter of what eventually goes out, or do you give them license because you trust them enough to know what's up? Meaning, how much more time do you have to devote later to come back to that to edit?
It depends on the writer. I mean, some of them are really good about finding the formula that I hand out and just running with that, where other ones like to push the ticket and go like really out there with it. They have like a vision, and I try not to edit too much. And I'm not saying like I don't care about grammar, because I'll look at that. But a lot of them are pretty good with grammar anyhow. And it's a book. It's a small publisher. You will find some typos, I'm sure, but hopefully not too many. But I'm trying not to affect their vision too much, as long as it doesn't break my storyline or my setting. So, and a lot of times we'll also have like a overarching story that's kind of expected. So I'll say, here's this, what do you want to do? Like for Karen Brieg, it was a gothic horror, sort of a little bit gaslight, not quite steampunk, but more Sherlock Holmes meets, like, I don't know, supernatural.
Which I love both of those, by the way. Oh my God, thank you. Both of those genres are outstanding. Yeah.
So in that one, we would take some creature, like, how can we take traditional Irish, Scottish, Northern European creatures and do a fresh take on them? I had sort of like a Little Red Riding Hood that I'd reversed, and she had instead of having the fox, or not fox, the wolf rather, trying to hunt her, she actually had these like shadow foxes that were like under her skirts. She had like a pocket dimension sort of, and she'd just throw them out and they would maul people to death. So
I love that.
And then it was a revenge story. It was a lot of these dark gothic Edgar Allan Poe-ish type revenge stories, and then there was an overall big bad evil guy or girl. I don't want to spoil it too much, but so we did that, and I just said there's some, not push and shove, but there's some give and take in there, and most of them, I think most of the writers don't have any problems trying to respect the setting, and I tried to clamp down on them too much.
That's interesting.
And I don't think I've had to. So I'd say any of them out there is probably at least 90% them, if not almost 100% them, with maybe a couple little things like, hey, can we add some extra loot, or what if we add this? And, you know, so, I mean, I think we're having a good time doing it.
Which was actually going to be my other thing is, because with this amount of time that you have been making the content, whether it's novels, games, card games, Kickstarters, whatever, because you do a lot of it, like there is, at least for me, there is a sort of, a bottomless well of energy for what I'm doing. But it wears one out pretty quick when that output is just constantly running. So like how do you stay inspired, or how do you stay motivated with so many pieces? And that may be part of it also, at least for me, the multiple pieces, the different chess pieces moving around, that's engaging enough to keep me motivated often. But there's times where, you know, I just wonder how I'm going to stand up in the morning, much less keep up with all the writing, all the edits, all the art, you know. So how do you do that? You had mentioned exercise and moving around. Is it as easy as that? Just, do I need to get off my ass more? You know, what do you do?
I don't know. It's cathartic to get that thing out there. And I think just seeing your name on a book on a shelf somewhere, it's worth the grind. So I enjoy it. And I mean, there's times at work I do science teaching. I teach science for the little kids, K1, 2. And then the other half of the day I run the library. So I'm always shelving books. And
you're a rock star, man. That's awesome.
I've got just stuff always percolating, you know, and you're cooking dinner, you're thinking about it. You're taking a shower, you're thinking about it. You're driving to the store, you're thinking about it. And you just kind of put those ideas together and prioritize. And I'm kind of detail oriented about keeping records of things. So I've got pretty detailed Google Docs that we keep track of what everybody did. And that's how I manage workflow. I mean, there's a lot more modern things out there, say like with a Monday and some of these other programs that we can manage workflow and communicate to there. But we're getting by with Google Docs and Facebook Messenger right now, and they're free. The zero cost is kind of a big thing. So
right there with you,
we've run a couple of our last 2 Kickstarter campaigns were literally zero cost. Everybody agreed to forego getting paid up front, and they just got a percentage of what we made on the end. So it was really cool.
Do you find that maybe the best way to work out how to pay people for that effort? Because Michael and I were just talking recently. BattleSauce has a Kickstarter that will be coming out soonish, but we're still working out the mechanics of that. And so do you find that the rhythm of the industry now, because you had just a moment ago mentioned everything is kind of different now, and you're absolutely right, with the technology, the innovations, the homework options, the way that people can network now globally, there's really no impediment based on location. So does that seem to work best for you guys handling it like that? Where
I think it speaks to the trust in the industry that I think with a lot of smaller groups, most everybody I work with has their own label too. Maximum Roll, Lost Lore, and some of the guys work with me. I don't want to say for me, but let's see. There's just a lot of them out there, and they all have their tabletop misfits. And just off the top of my head, I can't think of everybody's label. And I'm sorry if I'm missing.
There's so many, which is amazing.
Yeah, and they all have their own label. And I think the best thing I can do is try to help get some names out there. And I think there's a lot of writers that are not as interested in the pay as getting their name on something and getting on the shelf. I mean, yeah, it's a portfolio builder, and I tell them I'm not going to pay maybe as good as some of these other people. But I mean, I'm very transparent about like what we're getting and everything. And I'd like to think we've built a lot of trust amongst us. And usually it's word of mouth. Like, hey, like these 3 guys worked with me, and they've got 2 buddies, and then they work with me, and now it's the 7 of us, and then it goes to 9, 12, 13, 15, whatever. And I think they've all been able to trust me to pay them and deliver. So, I mean, because in the end, I mean, you want to get what you've agreed to.
Yes. So, but it's exhilarating, though, man. It's got to be, right? Like, you know, getting the wagons hooked up like that and making it happen, that has to be just exhilarating. Like you said, having your name on a shelf is kind of a big deal if you've never done that before, and especially if your resume has been years of building up to it. You know, like you had mentioned you were a D&D player, right? In the past, I've been a D10 guy for decades. Mark Reinhagen weaned me off of the D20s, and I'm pretty set in my ways now with D10, but with BattleSauce, as a comparison, it's a different model, different rule set, different thing. And so being able to change and jump and I guess shift gears and lanes is a way to stay relevant. And honest to goodness, after Ice and Dice and watching all the people and the business come your all's way with your comic books and with Derek and you there, you've diversified your output to the point that you're kind of everywhere and you're making it work really nice, it would appear. I do have to ask, are your family members as nerdy as you, or are you an island in a deep sea of more normalized people?
We were like my actual like family, not my kids and wife. We were raised Trekkies, so I mean
yes!
That probably, yeah. So yeah, we were raised Trekkies, but you know, Lord of the Rings and stuff obviously was a big favorite. Science fiction novels. My dad had a lot of like the '70s sci-fi in the basement on the shelf. Niven, Pornell, Asimov, a lot of that stuff. So you know, I was kind of raised on that. A lot of Orson Scott Card. So I mean, we went through that, but I think I took it to the next level. Like just before this, I think I was dabbling in too many vices. I was hunched over painting miniatures, and the WrestleMania replay was on in the background. So that was pretty nerdy. And then
that's awesome.
There's always the shelf of comic books, and I don't know. I used to do Gundam models. I can't stop.
How do you not, right? How do you not do that?
My daughters at least get into the Pokemon cards and stuff. I taught my one to play Magic the Gathering.
Right on.
They've been my 7-year-old and 11-year-old, they're starting to play test my new custom system that I've been putting together for a project later in the year. It should be a good mashup of like anime themes and say Harry Potter and Pokemon all smashed together into a custom setting. It's coming together really nicely.
That's going to be fantastic. That's going to be fantastic. So with that in mind, is anybody in the house leaning toward writing and developing and design work like that? Yeah.
So my daughter worked on a story. Both of my daughters have helped me write at least one book. My 7-year-old, when she was 3, she started drawing this one thing. It was like a French toast. So she called it, like, what are you drawing? She's like, it's smiley toast. So I made a book out of it and dedicated it to her. It was just like a fun activity, kids book. And then my oldest daughter, we wrote a quick kind of a fantasy adventure, travel to a different realm of reality sort of story. So they've all done it, and I see them always stealing all my copy paper and cutting and stapling it and making these crazy things. They've gone through 500 pages in the last 2 months just stapling random junk together that never gets past chapter 1. But
man, you gotta start somewhere, though. You know, you got to get the rhythm down, and at least they're getting it down early. You know, they can knock that chapter 1 out a few times, and then when they're older, they can move on to the end of the book. That's excellent, though. That's excellent.
Yeah, I think with a lot of writers, they start and never finish. And even if it's an absolute pile of crap, you need to finish.
Yes.
And it gets easier every time.
Yes, you got to trust the process. And you don't know what's going to actually happen by the end. And for us, at least, for Michael and I, and mostly, and I don't want to talk for him, he's in the audience listening, but for myself, it takes a lot of hacking around at a thing before you can really get to the shape of it. And even if you have a clear concept, you know, things are usually a little bit different when you start noodling out the various layers. So, you know, good for them. I remember when I was like 13, maybe 13, I wrote a really badly written choose your own adventure D&D-esque style book. And I think it had like 20 options for the whole thing from front to back. You had 20 choices. It was like maybe 40 pages. It was just terrible. But I look back at that and I'm like, man, you know, if you keep at a thing, you eventually get somewhere that you can start to do something that other people like and they would like to take part in. And I think that for a lot of us is maybe the big draw too. You know, when you're developing games, are you thinking about, because I'll be honest, when I'm developing games, typically I think about me and my initial little cadre of those that will be rolling dice with it. And then the rest of the world kind of comes in behind that. Like when you have an audience, do you think about your players first or the world first?
I think with a lot of the 5e stuff, I always had like the dark fantasy type group. So I think of them a lot, or I've kind of gotten a bunch of coworkers into the whole game, and we don't play frequently, but we play often enough, you know, and I think about what they'd want to play, or some of them are rehashes and like upgrades of stuff I created, you know, 2 decades ago and such.
Well,
so that's pretty fun.
That is fun. You get to polish those up.
Yeah, and I've still got a lot of those ideas in the back burner, but as well as the new ones. And I think the first time I've really thought about a different audience was this new one coming up, the animal one with which I said was kind of anime / Pokemon themes. Because I want to make something for my kids to play as well as young adults, but something that's also fun storyline wise that you could pull in some adults to it. So
that's a real big deal to me. You know, having a game that's got the versatility to be whimsical or fun and lighthearted if that's what it needs, or to have the narrative hook where you can really pull in the veteran players, I think is a big deal when you can hit that. That's awesome. So, like,
just the player groups will change too, because I mean, like I had a one shot I wrote, you know, playing with, sort of battling in the back. So I had a one shot, and just the players changed. I played with a bunch of guys that were like my own age, and they like fought through it and were super serious. And it, you know, started off with a coliseum, and then they had to go on this hunt through the desert, and they went through catacombs. My daughters played the same mission, and they're like, no, we're not going to fight. Let's befriend the bear. And they just kept, and just the roles kept working. And so they ended up freeing all the animals and stuff. And they didn't even go on the mission, but they spent like the same amount of time befriending animals. And it's cool to see what two different groups that are demographically different will do with the same story.
And that's great too. That's really great. And I'm going to pop back into the narrator mode here for those listening that may be new to running games. One of the things that I say because I've been running games now for a long time, and one of the lessons that you have to learn to maintain, at least in my opinion, a game with a continuity and a playability and enjoyment for everybody is the idea that as the storyteller, game master, whatever, it's not really your story. You're just guiding what's going on and letting them know what's happening. One of the things that I see, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I see that stymies a new storyteller game master, DM, whatever, is assuming that the players have to do a thing for the game to be a success. And in the case of like your kids befriending the animals, that is outstanding. And there is zero reason why that can't be the entirety of the game. When I was running a game, my wife does not play often, and she's not played for some years, but one of the first games I played with her and our son, he was 17 at the time, and he was playing a werewolf from Reinhagen's Werewolf, and my wife was playing a mage from Reinhagen's Mage, and there was just an evil dude, and my wife decided not to kill him and to heal him, and it changed everything. And that was the first time that I'd had a player actually go so far off course that it changed everything. So good on you, and like good on them. We have Dark Urban in the stands here. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to say if they can come on or not.
I know that guy.
Do you?
Yeah, that's Brian. It's Brian.
I thought it was. It looks like him.
Of Dark Urban Games. Yep.
McLean? Yeah, what's up, dude? Are you wanting to get in here and chat? I will endeavor to make you appear, if that's the case.
He's probably freezing his butt off in Calgary.
You think so?
I'm seeing what he's chatting. He's freezing.
Nah, he has kids coming, he said. Well, it's good to see you, Brian. Startsman, are you in here still?
He says it's Wisconsin hot here. Which means what? It's above 30?
I was going to say, yeah. Now, it is just past 8, Andrew. We are cool to wrap up if you would like. I absolutely appreciate you spending the time and hanging out with this Luddite. But I'm very cool to keep chatting if you would like to. I'm having a real good time, but this is what we had scheduled you for, sir.
No, we're doing good. And like I said, I don't mind hitting a couple of the projects. You already mentioned the Demon Age. That one should come out. I'm looking at a June 24th launch for that. Free RPG Day. I'm going to try to drop the prologue because it'll be a prologue and 13 chapters. And I want to drop that prologue for free and get you guys started in my setting. But more sooner than that, like really soon, since it's launching tomorrow, is this comic I'm doing with Derek Stevens, the Sinners Volume 2. That launches tomorrow, 4/4/23. So.
Right on. I'm making notes here. Hang on. 4/4/23. Is it already? Oh man.
Yeah, that'll be tomorrow. Yeah, until tomorrow. We'll be launching that, and it's his second one. So it's just he and I, and we have a nice lady working with us for advertising, and she's helping us kind of get our names out there. So but yeah, it's a small project again.
Now, was that the one? Was the part 1 was what you had at Ice and Dice?
Yeah, and we've been working through this one. That one was around 26, 28 pages. This one's are closer to 40.
Wow, really?
Covers. Yep.
That's
one of the people we met at Ice and Dice, Nicole Slater, she did one of our variant covers. It's really cool to just network.
Shout out to Nicole. She's on the Lost Learn team, dude. She is on fire. Her art is top notch, man. So yeah, good catch there. She's outstanding too.
Yeah, so if you like her, or you check her out, because one of the add-on products for the whatever tier is to get a custom piece of artwork from her. So
really?
Back the project. Yep.
That's awesome.
Back the project, and then throw some money her way, and she'll get pretty much all of it. Minus whatever Kickstarter grabs, 5%, 10%, whatever. And then you'll get a custom piece of character artwork from her. So
no kidding. Like anybody that's new to this, the homebrew, the indie brew, the indie game networks, the individual development, the game designers, individual game designers can learn a ton from you, man. You've been doing this for a few years now, but good Lord. What? Okay. So is it as exciting to you? Cause it seems to be, you had mentioned getting new artist names out there, writers names out there. is that as thrilling to you as making the content at times? Like, I really enjoy when I can help an artist or another writer do something that puts them in a nerd space that I've been in, luckily, for the last couple of years. Like, there are so many of us nerds and writers and artists out there. That's just exhilarating to me. I don't know if has that been your experience at all too?
I mean, there's multiple reasons for that. Number one, if I'm doing it by myself, I'm probably the only one who's going to see it. It's just like, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And I could probably get it done faster, but I don't think it'd be quite as good, because when you see a project approached from all these different angles, they take things ways you wouldn't have. With the Multiverse project, like I said, I think I only wrote 4 out of 20 missions. So, I mean, 16 other ones were written by people who took them completely different ways than I would have, and I think you get a better variety of stuff in there. And I very purposely made sure when you got to, say, like the Realm of Fire, it'll say created by Andrew Frinkle, and you get to the next one, the Realm of Water, created by Rocky Latero. And I kept the names on there. I want people to say, man, that guy was cool. I want to see what else he did. So, I mean, I do definitely like that. And again, as I said, we're zero budget. We literally spent $0 on that project. So we didn't have a marketing budget. So when everybody's paycheck depends on how well we did, I mean, if I did 100 out of 400 pieces of work, I get a quarter of the profit, right? So if that profit's only $1,000, that's not as good if the profit's $4,000. So I still get that same percentage. So it's in everybody's best interest to A, get your name out there, and B, help the project do better, because we can go on and do better and greater things next. And if they want to keep working with me and the rest of us, that's great. If it helped give them a little shove, or if it just put another thing on their portfolio list, that's great too. I mean, I think everybody's been pretty cool with it, and I have a lot of repeat workers, and the only time I think they haven't really wanted to is if maybe the setting wasn't quite their cup of tea, or if they just had a lot on their plate. And I think I built a lot of fun and interesting relationships that way. And there's a lot of people out there, you know, if you're just trying to do your own thing, who will, I'm not saying work for free, but they'll, you know, you put their name on stuff, and you share credit. And I think a lot of people are willing to do it for a reasonable price just to get out there. And I mean, it looks good. So.
Like, when you came into this industry, then you strike me as the kind of guy that would do research, a lot of research maybe, before you jumped into the water. I tend to be a more jump in the water guy. And then I get eaten alive. Well, that was my other question. I was like, how much trial and error did it take for you to come to a place where now you apparently can speak, to it with an easy kind of confidence? But like, when and this is mostly for those that may be listening to this that are getting into this new right off the bat, were you horrified at the potential trap you had sprung on yourself, as you travel down this semi-darkened hallway?
I think I had some experience from doing the educational stuff. I mean, I've made like 800 products that I sell on Teachers Pay Teachers, like 150 books, and some of them sell fairly well. Some of them don't sell at all. Some of them have probably never sold. So, obviously that's never the intent, but I mean, every once in a while you get one, you're like, man, this is going to be good. I can feel it. I think musicians are the same way. This is going to be a hit. This is going to be on the radio. And then sometimes you're like, this is going to win, and then it just tanks, and you don't know why. It just wasn't quite the right flavor or whatnot. But I think since we went to the digital product only ones, we've been doing better. I mean, in all honesty, if you're going to do a physical product mailing, you're going to be lucky to break even. Well, by the time you pay people for what they did, and by the time you mail and buy the products and do samples and prototyping and stuff, you're going to break even. Probably not always, but at best. And sometimes you end up in the hole. That's what it is. The digital ones we've been doing better on, and some of that's just guidance. I mean, Brian's been with me on 4 or 5 now. Derek's been with me on 3 or 4. Kelly Williams, a lot of people, and you're just going to have to make your friends list, because a lot of them are very supportive, and without spending a lot of money to get out there, I don't think there's a way to do it without having a friends list that can help share. And that's one reason why I was tempted to make this independent projects alliance, where a bunch of smaller companies just blow their labels on stuff and
the IPA
help share. Yeah, the IPA, and it makes you want to drink beer.
It does. Yeah. That's excellent.
But I think small company sharing, because even the big ones out there, like Cobalt Press and all these other ones, they're big now, but I mean they've had years to build up their roster, and little guys, I think it's a fairly flooded market, but there's still money out there. But I think if you're just trying to go it alone, you're going to be making not much. But I think together we can kind of help each other, move each other up, and give each other opportunities.
That's interesting. I was wondering if the market at this point, with everything in industry now, whether it's fabrication or production, or I mean the layout, you can do all these things from home now if you understand what's happening, and you no longer really need an outside company except for things like shipping and printing. Beyond that, though, everything else can be pretty much sourced at home, and the market is flooded, but it's with people that are all in the same kind of boat with each other, trying to find somewhere to make that work. Do you feel like, you had mentioned the big companies that had years to build up the market and their, base and the customer base and everything else, but now, do you think that's as necessary now? Or with everything being so instantly related to each other, if that's a hurdle that's no longer needed to be jumped, and it's just getting into that right space? Because I don't know.
I think there's still definitely a niche. I think there's tiers of success. I mean, if you want to get it out there and make a few $100 and have a couple people enjoy your game, I think almost anybody can do that. If you want to get to the point where you're staying home full time, obviously I'm still not there if I'm teaching full time, and this is a good supplemental income. It might become my full time sometime. I certainly hope so. I enjoy it a lot. I think it depends on what you're going for. I think if you're looking for replacement income, probably not going to happen unless you just break it big. And there's things out there too. It always astounds me when there's a Kickstarter that people will just throw money at, and they literally have, this is the first one I've created. Here's one picture of what I want to do. Here's one paragraph, and you're not going to see it for 12 months. Throw me money.
And they exceed by thousands.
Meanwhile, I'll give you a 400-page thing that you're going to get 18 days after we wrap. And they're like, I mean, that could be, for some people, it's a real kick in the teeth, probably. But I mean, for me, it's like, well, everybody got paid. We had fun. We got our name on another book. It's a building process, and I've seen some growth. Let's just keep with the grind and see where it takes us, as long as we're having fun with it.
That was one of my last things to ask you, actually, was what your long-term aims were for it. With BattleSauce, we would like, the 5-year plan would be nice to eke out of our normal day jobs. Later, Brian. Eke out of our normal day jobs and do, nerdery more full-time. I don't know if that's a pipe dream. I would like it not to be. I would love to do that. Oh my God. I want to write and draw constantly. And that is the goal. And I guess, with everything, and we're not going to get into the whole D&D licensing thing, but with such major shifts in an industry that hitherto has been kind of low key until, recently, and people are starting to realize there are literally billions of dollars in it, scattered across various venues and outlets. And even the movies, like the new D&D movie that just, came out. I think, again, the idea that the testament to this industry as a narrative option for the mass public is kind of a big deal, I would think
Absolutely.
It's kind of a big deal. And so the hope is to build off of that, right?
Yeah, and I think there's just a greater awareness of like cool nerd Hollywood stars into it. I mean, like Vin Diesel,
God,
what
dude.
wasn't it? Like the last, was it the last, not Witcher, the last Witch Hunter or whatever?
Yeah,
There was a Vin Diesel movie. That was a fun movie. That was supposedly based off his D&D campaign. I mean, people have done this stuff, and then you get all of the Joe Manganiello, and then
I love him, dude. He's like the burliest nerd ever,
Yeah. Yeah, and he was in True Blood, and people watch that, and then you're like, hey, didn't he marry Sofia Vergara?
Dude, he was the werewolf, right?
D&D.
Wasn't he the werewolf in that?
Like yeah.
Oh, dude, I read those. I tried to watch them. I enjoyed them more or less. Have you read those things?
Charlene Harris. I haven't done that. I do like some urban fantasy, but I'm more of Dresden Files or Rachel Morgan. I haven't done the Charlene Harris stuff.
Well, let me say about the Dresden books. Fuck yes. On the Dresden books. Those are awesome. I love all those.
I mean, and I think fans of the Dresden Files would get into the Demon Age, that more of the, like the creepy political horror elements of it. And that's kind of what the Demon Age is going for. We tossed a healthy amount of like religion and mythology in there, but in a fun way. We're not getting preachy. We're getting more of the Mortal Instruments kind of demon hunting, fighting stuff.
I love all that.
Yeah, so we were having fun with that, and a lot of other projects. Just you always get ideas, and I'll be at work, have a couple spare minutes, and start sketching out a hollow world or something like that, and then I go down a rabbit hole and try to figure out how gravity works inside a hollow world, which is actually
yes,
it's extremely fascinating, to the point where it wouldn't work. Like it's bizarre. You're like, well, how about centripetal force? And like, nope, it doesn't work because the net force acted upon you is zero. You'd literally be floating in the hub.
For those who may not, I mean, I don't think the people that would naysay what we do would be listening to this. But if you are listening to this and you're like, it's just writing stuff down. There is a lot of research and consideration that goes into a well-made game. I once bothered a doctor. He was a doctor of physics. And real smart, to work out how fast you would have to fly to evade the sunrise and stay always just ahead of the sun. It took math. This guy got back with me 2 days later with the math. Nerdery is deep, and it's a rich area to start digging around in. I love that. That's not to say you can't have just a BS game and anything goes, the splat games and the one shots and whatever. But no, man, that's excellent. That sounds like a hoot. It really does. BS game. Was that Startsman talking? Andrew, it's getting close to, I think I've kept you on here quite a bit. Do you want to do any plugs for anything before I sign you off?
Like I said, just look for our Kickstarter. It launches tomorrow. That'll be Sinners. It's a cyberpunk vampire mashup crossover for I mean, I think if you like, say, Underworld and Shadowrun, it'd be right up your alley.
You keep saying all these words that I love: horror, Shadowrun, Sherlock Holmes, Lovecraft. It's excellent. I love all that.
Okay, so that's going to be out there starting tomorrow, or make Derek draw 3 more of them. That's his goal. He wants to stay at home and draw comic books all the time. So, yeah, jump on that and keep an eye out for the Demon Age. And I'm always looking for writers. If you've got some writing samples and want to jump in, again, we have kind of like a model where you're going to get a chunk of whatever we make at the end based on the number of NPCs you create, the art you create, like missions or resources you write for us. And, I'd like to think it's a pretty friendly group, and, I'm always looking for more people. So
now, Michael just mentioned, too, a few places that we can locate your work. I would like to, obviously, we're going to put links into our Instagram account and our Discord and make sure that we can get those out to everybody. But are there some specifics you would like to note?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for some of my novels or whatnot, you can look for Andrew Frinkle on Amazon. So I'm on Amazon. I'm on Drive-Thru RPG. It is MediaStream Press. I'm on Kickstarter, obviously, and that's also should be MediaStream Press. And on Facebook is Andrew Frinkle and MediaStream Press. So you just poke around there, MediaStreamPress.com, and to just see what you can find. If you have anything specific you're looking for, don't hesitate. Add me as a friend on Facebook, and we'll chat. I'll send you some samples or whatnot. So,
and obviously be sure to get that to us so we can get the links out later. It doesn't have to be tonight, but I wanted again to thank Andrew Frinkle of many talents, many hats, many badass moments that he has been giving to the community for joining us on our first In the Kitchen. We are going to continue these, and Andrew has agreed behind the scenes earlier to come back when we have worked out a better method for recording these. Apparently NASA knows how, but no one else does. I'll call NASA later. Legion, you just popped in. Anything, and we're about to wrap up officially. I'm happy to hang out longer, but I've kept Andrew here for nearly an hour. So if you need to go, sir, that's cool. But if you guys want to hang and chat off the record, I'm happy to hang out with you. But it has been a pleasure. It was a hoot. Thank you for being gentle with your somewhat confused host tonight, Andrew, and very much want to do this again.
No, it was a good time. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me as your first guest. I feel special now.
This will be a way back when we get this stuff polished up later, and we can come back and chuckle over some IPAs, as it were.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thank you for having me.
Very, very much welcome, sir. I will bid you adieu and let you pop out of here. And again, guys, Andrew Frinkle, check him out. We'll have links up. This has been BattleSauce in the Kitchen, and we'll see you next time. And remember, it's all in the sauce.